replayers. If you're replaying, you can of course still participate. You can tap on the screen for hearts. You can share it. You can invite followers. If you know someone specifically that needs this message about money habits, you can invite them, share it with your followers. If you have questions for me, something I mentioned on the broadcast that you didn't get a chance to ask, you can for sure find me on Twitter. That's where I'll post any links to things I talk about, including my spreadsheet tools. You can find me on Snapchat. It's a great way to communicate with people in short form video. And of course, you can join me here tomorrow at 10 a.m. So for anybody that's new, or just a refresher, my name is Joannazarach. I talk about money habits every single day, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Central Time. I decided, a few months ago to take a plunge into, I guess I'm calling this financial education. Really just want to take the magic out of money, I guess, take the myth out of money management, and how money works, and help people get on their way to financial independence or financial freedom, to whatever that may mean to you. So what I want to talk about today is Thursday. I just rant about something that really bothers me. This was triggered a little bit by a couple of Twitter chats that I was in yesterday. One was the Reuters women chat, and one was which touched upon the sort of imbalance or the inequality when it comes to women and money, and how women really need to be paying more attention to money, investments, money management, for several reasons. I think the key takeaways from there were women earn less during their lifetime than men due to two or three main reasons. Are women tend to go into professions that are undervalued, so your sort of wages are down. Women do a lot more unpaid work than men do, and then when once a month is, to me, a ridiculous concept. And here's the thing, is because if you're not paying attention to your money, it'll go away. It's like someone who's like giving you a dating advice. It's like, you know what? Go ask that girl out, and maybe you should text her like once a month. See how that goes for you, right? It's never going to work. Like, that's not how things work. You need to be more attentive to the things you care about. And if you're on here, hopefully you care about money. Why should you care about money? Because money is it's not real, but it's like, it's freedom, right? It's freedom. It gets you things. Money can take care of you. Like, okay, it won't hug you in the middle of the night, but it will take care of you. It will take care of your basic needs. It'll take care of your shelter needs. In our society, money does take care of you. So you should care about it. And if you care about it, you need to attend to it. If you, for some reason, find this idea that checking in with your money every day is way too time consuming, that's same as saying, you're not going to text your spouse back, or, exercise. If you just do that boot camp once a year, just really get it, just really focus for a week and just really get it done. Or like, that tax day, if you just really pay attention to it once, it'll be good. It just doesn't work that way. Like, so that here's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Like, you have got to get in a mindset that paying attention to your money is a big part of your job as an adult, as a person in our society, as someone who's trying to achieve success. You need to pay attention to your money every single day. And when you do it every single day, it becomes really, really easy, because you're not going to have this like overwhelm of, I don't understand, on all these information. There's like 500 transactions and I can't get my arms around it. You do it every day. It just becomes like, it's like not checking your inbox for a month. Think about that. If you didn't check your email for a month, for a whole month, what do you think would happen to your ability to respond to things, to participate in a workplace, to participate in your relationship? So think about that. If you let your email build up for a whole month and then you went to check it, all you're seeing is how many unread emails are. You can sort it maybe by recipient. Say, okay, I'm going to just delete everybody from this one. Maybe you're already sorting it, goes into folders. But think about your ability to actually react and do something about it. It diminishes by like the 50th email you read. You're like, oh, I'm so exhausted. There's so much email. I can't really do that. And you start being sloppy. You don't respond to the important emails. Everything gets lost in the shuffle, and you're not paying attention to the important things. So that's really the message for today. I want people to take their money more seriously, and I want them to relate to other parts of our lives that would not be healthy if you just decide to ignore them for a month. Your health, if you're exercising, if you're into fitness, health and fitness, you know that two things. One is you've got to exercise. You can't just go, I'm going to exercise once a month. I'm really going to put a big day into it. I'm going to do 5 hours at the gym. If you're like, it doesn't work, right? Oh, I'm going to do even like, whatever so popular, the cleanses. It's like, oh, if I just do a cleanse, everything's going to be good. Not if you're just going to go back to eating crappy food the next 29 days. It's not going to work, right? It's not sustainable. And same thing, money management that just happens like every once in a while is not a sustainable way for you to be financially free. If you're truly committed to achieve a certain level of financial freedom, you need to start paying attention to your finances on a more consistent basis. It'll pay off in the long run, I'm telling you, because what's going to happen once the accounting and the expenditure tracking becomes easy, now you're ready to step up, right? Maybe you start your own business on the side and you learn about the business accounting side of it, and then you start learning about taxes, right? And you build on it, and instead of saying this world of finance is too complicated for me and I'm not interested in it, what you're actually doing is saying I'm practicing finance, I'm practicing the financial concepts. I got this down, so next year I can build on it. But if you're always on the struggle train just to figure out where your money's going, yeah, well, you can get so if you have to measure like what it is that your why, like really dig deep in your anxiety and say, is there something you can do about it, right? Because obviously if you have a lot of uncontrolled expenses or debt, it's like something that weighs heavy on you. You feel like, oh, I'm not getting control over it. And if you're watching the stock market, in the last 24 months, there's some days where you're like, oh, crapola. But look at those as opportunities, right? That's why if you become an investor, you start looking at those things and saying, ooh, like I've put aside some money to be consistently investing, right? If you take control over it versus like it just happens, if everything happens automatically for you, you are less invested in learning how it works and in practicing how to do it. So pick some area where you can say, look, I'm going to start controlling it. I'm going to start taking some action. Because, what I do, like I think that there's a lot of beliefs around money and wealth and greed and just like this person who's obsessed about it, and that you shouldn't do it. Like you should just hope for the best. And the thing is that but it's very disempowering, and it also makes money like as this like evil entity. Like it's like money can be used for good, right? It can be. What I wanted to do is to give people the freedom to help them do what they're meant to do, because you have to embrace money. Because if you're going to see money as bad or evil, of course you're not going to want to spend time with it. It's like spending time with an ex. You're like, we're ex for a reason, right? Don't treat your money like the ex, the person you're trying to avoid, and, by all means, and they give you anxiety because you feel like, they ruined your life or whatever. You want to treat your money like somebody, like an entity you want a relationship with, right? And also, like, I know it sounds funny because you're like, oh, like it's not a person, but it's just similar to any other habit that you're going to develop, any actions you're going to take consistently that you expect to have a result with, right? And so the wishful thinking, it doesn't work. Like, you've got to embrace it. You've got to see money for what it is. It's like a source of freedom. And so if it's causing you anxiety, you've got to be like, why? Sometimes it's those deep-seated money beliefs that you carry from your parents and from your grandparents. My grandma still says, like money, like there's just no money. Like that's her entire worldview. That the money is something someone gives you, and it's limited, and it's hard, and there's not enough of it, and just that's how she lives her life. Like, she would never come visit us in the US because she didn't want us wasting money on her plane ticket, which is extremely sad. And by the way, it just costs a lot more money to fly one, two, three, four, five, six, 8 people to Poland to visit her than for her to have come and visit us. But her belief around money was like limiting her own actions and her experiences. And she's never been on a plane. She's still alive, but she's in health that's probably poor enough now. She's 92, that it's like a questionable thing to have her fly. But 10 years ago, she's still like riding a bike. Hi. And so the limiting beliefs, like I have to like not let that be ingrained in mine. Like my parents don't like, they think money's confusing, right? So they have enough, but they won't take the time to learn about it. Like my dad freaked out because he got all these forms for, he retired and he's like, I don't know what to do with this for taxes. And I'm thinking, you just put the numbers in the TurboTax. Like, so I'll help my parents with it. And I'll try to dispel those myths, but like, and my dad's a math professor, right? So I'm like, money is just math, but these concepts get really confusing. But if you're not taking the time to learn it, and you don't embrace it, right? If you see like money is something you're gonna run out of, then you're definitely going to treat it differently, right? Like with some fear, with some anxiety. So I think that yeah, right. Like right, exactly. And it's like it's such an extravagant thing, and it's like, but what is it for? So like even though it's expensive, we've gone twice already with my children. My children are only 4, but I took them before they even remember because I wanted them to meet my family. And I'm like, this is part of what I work for and what I want. I want the freedom to take my family, on a trip to Poland and meet their relatives, because I want them to feel like, that's just part of what we do. And that's the experience that's important to me, is to have them feel a connection to their extended Polish family. But it's kind of like it's this big expenditure, and you start counting in it. And instead of going, okay, this ticket is $700, $800. I mean, why fly economy? It's like, that's my thing. And it's like, what is it gonna? Instead of saying, oh, it's a lot of money, figure out, well, how am I going to get that money, right? Like we all have time. We can all work. We can all, if you accumulate some amount of money, you can figure out how to invest it and be smart about it, and then if you take action every day, you will feel empowered. So the actions that I take every day on money, I talk about Mint, right? Like I log into my Mint account. It's just like a second tab out right after my to-do list. I just log in and I just look at it. I mark my transactions. I see if anything's changed. I see if any of my, if all my accounts are falling through, and that's it. It takes like a minute or two at this point because I really have like a routine. I also go on my lending club because it's like, I just like making those loans every day. It's like, it makes me feel like I'm taking action to better my financial future. And then I'll check the stock market just to get a sense of where it's going. And if it's really down, I'll go, okay, do I have money in this account to invest? And typically I'll invest in my kids' 529 plans. And it's just a little bit. Like if you break it down to smaller steps, it won't feel like, oh, I just have to get it right once and for all and forever and never have to think about it. You've got to learn to give yourself permission to make small adjustments or take small actions. And if you break those actions to be small, that's why if you do it more frequently, you go, oh, it wasn't so scary buying stock in a down market, right? It was actually like on sale. I got more shares of whatever mutual fund, and I buy mutual funds, but whatever you want to buy, I got more shares. And you become empowered and to say, look, I took action. And you can see that money, and like sometimes and it's like, but you didn't lose the money. You're still invested in the stocks. You still own that asset that's generating dividends, right? And that's when you start learning, like, okay, what's, growth stock? What's the value stock? Like, how does when things happen to you and become relevant to you, you start paying more attention and learning about it. And so the thing is, though, if you avoid having a relationship with your money, then like, how are you going to get better? It's like anywhere, like you're never good at something when you first start. And then you may be still bad at some things, like I recognize the things I'm bad at, and I don't like try to like feel bad about it. I just try to say, well, how is it that what are the strengths that I have in terms of offering things to people? Like some would argue I'm a terrible friend. I'm like not a spontaneous person that'll call people, but I'm always there. Like I'm on the receiving end, and I'll schedule things with people. I'll be like, we need to schedule, this thing, and then we're going to talk about this. Like I'm schedule and agenda person, which works really well professionally as well. But it doesn't work well when you're trying to be spontaneous because you're like, oh, I wasn't on my schedule, I can't handle it, right? So I understand that. But with money, the whole point is that like you've gotta embrace it. You've got to see it as a tool and as something that's enabling you to do good things for yourself and for others, right? Like when you have more money, you can be more generous, right? And so I really do think that people need to view money as a source of good in the world, good for themselves, and something you can offer, right? Like something where you can help people. And it's not means like just giving your money away all the time to people or being seen as like the person who has most means, so you always have to pay for everything, which can't happen. But that's just to say, look, I want to empower people. I want to give, like a lot of times I'll give of my time, right? Because I'm not so concerned about like, oh, if I give all this stuff away, what am I gonna sell? Like, what's my time worth? Because I'm not concerned about that. I'm not like, oh, I got to put all my effort and energy into paid work, and therefore I have nothing to give. Like this, enable yourself to be more generous with your time, with your knowledge, with your expertise, and with your skills. But you won't be able to do that if you're worried or anxious about bills are piling up, credit card payments are huge. You know, I have student loans. If you're just always worried about it, but the more you check in on it, the less you'll worry about it. I guarantee you that. Like you gotta set up a system where you're checking in with your money all the time. Like, you know, don't leave it to a monthly. Like think of all the things that you can do, that you're doing, that you're expected to do on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes you don't do it. Like I know not everybody exercises, but you know you should, right? Like you know you're gonna get better. And I have like results. Like I'm like my favorite is like all my blood tests over the last 3 years, from before when I started exercising, and then every year how my cholesterol's gotten better and my blood pressure and everything. Those are results, right? Those are results. And then, but I don't get that immediate feedback. I just know I got to go to the gym, you know, like I got to make the time. And it's just become important to me. Same with relationships. You know, your friends will not stick around if you're never calling them back, right? You're like, oh, you know, I got this. I check in with my friends once a month, you know, like, okay, but what if they need you? What if there's an emergency, right? Like just checking in. Or if you're active on social media, or if you're an entrepreneur yourself and you're reaching out, and you know that you've got to cultivate those things. You've got to cultivate relationships. You need to cultivate a relationship with money. I think this advice of like check your statements monthly is not, I mean, it's like at the minimum. It's like, yes, at the minimum you should do that, but like it's not going to get you there. What's going to get you there is getting more and more curious about how money works, and then flexing your financial muscle. Again, you've got to cover the basics before you can, you know, go to the advanced class. You've got to be able to, you know, lift a 5-pound weight before you can do a 50-pound bicep curl, right? Like you have got to build up your muscle, and then maybe a more complex exercise. You may add something to the mix, you know, so whether it's exercise, whether it's the type of relationship you can handle, and either like a job assignment, right? Like if you're just a person who just shows up and does their job instead of being curious about what the person, you know, ahead of you is doing, or your boss is doing, or what your business is doing, if you're not going to be curious about it, it's going to be really hard for you to advance. It's the same with money. It's a skill set. You've got to learn it, and you've got to practice it every day. The more you practice, the easier it'll get. And then don't get tempted to just be like, okay, put it on autopilot. All I'm saying is if you really want money to be, if money is important to you, I know it's not important to everybody, but if money is important to you, if financial freedom is important to you, it's going to be really hard if you're not practicing it and you're not paying attention to it and not taking care of it, right? It's just like you got to look after it. You have to be more you have to become more conscious about the numbers and how they work, and educating yourself. So anyway, that's my rant for today. Don't be the person who tells your boss that you're going to answer an email once a month. And that's what it sounds like when I hear that. Like literally I was having like palpitations, like, no, don't check your statements monthly. Like you got to know what's going on. It takes 2 minutes. No, thank you for always for joining in and for your encouragement. And I hope that like it's what I really want is I want to spur people into action, right? I want them to be like, you know, I am going to sit on my Mint account and I'm going to add all my financials and I'm going to start tracking. And even if it's not like, if you don't get to it right away, or, you know, you're just going to be like, I heard that. And then say, okay, I am going to learn. I'm going to look at my tax return this year instead of just like being blind and be like, oh, I don't want to see my tax return. You know, oh, it's scary. Oh, good. I got to check. Like you got to understand it, and you got to like learn about investing. And then you've got to think through your big purchases, and you've got to mitigate your risk. You really do. If you attend to the 5 big money areas, and then you start becoming more conscious about money and how money is made and how money grows, then I can guarantee you that you're going to be in a better position. I do think that people arrive at a better place financially when they start paying attention to their money. I don't think anybody can argue with that. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. And I'm here to, when you run into roadblocks, when you say, yeah, you know, I got to this point, I don't really know what's the next step, right? What should I be focusing on next, right? And I know a lot of people are still pre-investment, cash flow challenged, in debt. I know, and it's hard. It's hard to be in that position because you don't feel like, and by the way, the feeling that you're not getting ahead, it's not just a feeling, it's true. You're not getting ahead if you're paying all this interest to for nothing. So you've got to really sit down and be true with yourself and look at your finances and figure out how to get more income or how to lower your expenses. And you can't just look at money as an option to buy things. You want it to be an option to do what you want with your time. So thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to talk about fees because on Fridays we always talk about fees. Fees is how you lose money, and we want to eliminate them from our lives because they're not adding any value or not buying anything that you need or want. So I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you for your time and your participation in the hearts. And you can find me on Twitter at joannazarach. If you have a question you want to just snap me on Snapchat, I'm on there too. I want to be where people are at, and if you have questions, I want to answer them. And you can also, on my Twitter account, you can check out they're shareable Google spreadsheets that I've put together, just little tools where it's like, where do I start? And I give you a place where you can click on a spreadsheet and say, okay, let me figure out. I'll find a better place, like a more central place to keep them. A website will come eventually. But thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow.